I used to think nothing could surprise me anymore. But that night proved how wrong I was. You know how they say life changes in a moment? It really does. For me, it was a quiet evening, a thunderstorm humming outside, and a simple knock at my bedroom door that changed everything. My name's Ethan. I was 23, just returned from grad school, trying to figure out what came next. My dad had remarried 2 years ago to a woman named Marissa, a poised, graceful woman who always carried herself like she belonged in another world. She was younger than Dad by about 15 years, and even though she was technically my stepmom, we never really had a mother-son kind of relationship. It was distant, polite. I never called her Mom, just Marissa. That evening, Dad had flown out to Chicago on a business trip. I'd stayed back to house sit while finishing up some job applications. It was supposed to be a calm night. I had no idea how personal and complicated it was about to get. Around 10 p.m., thunder cracked loud enough to rattle the windows. I was halfway through typing a cover letter when I heard footsteps outside my room. A soft knock followed. Ethan. Marissa's voice was quiet, almost uncertain. I stood and opened the door. She stood there in her robe, damp hair clinging to her shoulders, a glass of wine in her hand. Her eyes looked tired, or maybe sad. I wasn't sure. Hey, everything okay? I asked. She nodded, then looked away. I didn't want to be alone during the storm. Would you mind if we talked for a bit? I hesitated, not because I didn't want to, but because we'd never had that kind of moment before. But something about her voice, it felt fragile. Yeah, sure. Come in. She stepped inside slowly, settling onto the edge of my bed like someone unsure of her place. I offered her my chair, but she waved it off. I used to love storms when I was younger, she began, her voice soft and reflective. But lately they just bring back things I try to forget. I sat beside her, careful to leave space. Like what? She smiled faintly, eyes still distant. Memories of a life I thought would turn out differently. I didn't say anything, just listened. I met your dad at a very confusing time, she continued. He offered me stability, and for a while I needed that. But now, I feel like I'm a ghost in my own life. Do you know what that's like? I swallowed. Her words weren't just casual complaints, they were pain, wrapped in a calm exterior. I think I do, I replied. Coming back home feels weird, like I don't belong anymore. My friends moved on, I don't know where I'm heading, and even this house feels different. She looked at me then, really looked. We're both a little lost, aren't we? She whispered. The air between us grew heavier. Not uncomfortable, but intense, vulnerable. Her hand trembled slightly as she took another sip of wine. I saw her struggling, not for words, but to hold herself together. I'm sorry, she said suddenly. This was a bad idea. I shouldn't burden you with this. No, it's okay. I mean it. You're not a burden, I said quickly. Sometimes talking helps. She looked down at her lap, then back at me. Her eyes had softened, but they held something else now. Something unreadable. Then her voice cracked. Do you ever wonder what your life would look like if one decision had gone differently? All the time, I admitted. A long pause followed. The storm outside was raging now, lightning flashing across the curtains. She slowly stood and walked toward the window, her back to me. I wasn't always like this, you know, she said. I used to dream, dance, write poetry. I gave all that up because I thought love meant sacrificing who you are for someone else's stability. I joined her at the window. You can still be that person, Marissa. It's not too late. She turned to me, closer now. Her hand brushed mine, barely a touch. But what if that person is gone? What if the only part of me that's still alive is the part that remembers what it feels like to be seen? The thunder shook the glass. And then it happened. Her eyes locked onto mine. For a moment, time stalled. There was no age gap, no labels, no past. Just two people, raw and exposed. She whispered, "Thank you for listening. No one does anymore." I reached for her hand without thinking. But just as I did, the doorknob rattled. We both froze. And that's when we heard the front door opening downstairs. My dad was home. To be continued. The sound of the front door clicking shut echoed like a gunshot. Marissa's hand jerked away from mine, and she stepped back, adjusting the belt on her robe in a flurry of nervous fingers. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure she could hear it. "Go," she whispered, voice barely audible. "Don't let him see me here." I nodded, stepping quickly into the hallway just as Dad called out, "Ethan?" I met him at the bottom of the stairs, trying to steady my breathing. "Hey, Dad. You're home early." He was soaked from the rain, wiping his glasses dry with the edge of his shirt. "Flight got canceled. Storm warnings. Figured I'd just drive back." "What are you doing up?" I shrugged. "Couldn't sleep. Storm's loud." He didn't ask more, thank God. Just set down his bags, groaning like he always did after a trip. "Tell Marissa I'm home, yeah?" "I will," I lied. But I didn't go back up right away. I needed air, space to think. I slipped out the side door and walked into the backyard, rain misting down through the branches. My mind replayed everything. The way Marissa had looked at me, what she said, how close we'd come to something we couldn't take back. And I wasn't just shaken because of the moment. Weirdly, shamefully, I was shaken because part of me had wanted it. When I finally came back inside, the house was silent. I peeked down the hallway toward her room. Her light was off. I went back to mine, but I didn't sleep. The next morning was awkward in a way that cut like glass. Marissa was already up, dressed like nothing had happened, making breakfast with her usual soft efficiency. Her smile was faint when I walked in. My dad was reading the news on his tablet at the table. "Morning," I mumbled. "Coffee's ready," she said without looking at me. Our eyes met only once, and in that brief glance there was a flicker of something. Fear, maybe. Or guilt. I kept my head down most of the day, avoiding her and pretending things were fine. But inside it was a mess. My thoughts were spiraling, questions attacking from all sides. Why did she open up like that? What would have happened if Dad hadn't come home? Did I want to find out? That night, I heard soft footsteps outside my door again. My breath caught. The same soft knock followed. I opened it slowly. But it wasn't Marissa. It was my dad. "Hey, can we talk for a sec?" Sure." I stepped back as he came in. He looked tired. He sat on my desk chair, resting his hands on his knees. "Is everything okay between you and Marissa?" he asked. My heart dropped. "What do you mean?" "She's been distant. I noticed it even before I left for the trip. Now I feel like, I don't know, like something's changed." I didn't know what to say. My throat tightened. "You know," he continued, "I always thought she married me out of convenience. Not love. I was okay with that. Thought maybe love could come later. But now I'm not so sure she ever really wanted this life." He looked up at me, his eyes tired but sincere. "I just want her to be happy. Even if that means I'm not the one who makes her happy." I swallowed hard. "That's really honest of you." He nodded. "Sometimes being honest is the only way to survive." After he left, I sat in silence for a long time. 2 days passed. We avoided each other, me and Marissa. Every time I walked into a room, she left. Every glance was laced with something unsaid. Until finally, one night, I found her outside, sitting under the tree in the backyard, barefoot in the grass, wrapped in a shawl. The air was still damp with the smell of the last storm. "You okay?" I asked softly. She didn't turn. "You shouldn't be here." "Then why are you?" She looked up slowly. "Because this is the only place I can breathe." I sat beside her. "I didn't mean for any of that to happen," she said after a long silence. I felt seen. And that's dangerous when you're this lonely." "I know," I whispered. "But you're not alone. You never were." She laughed bitterly. "Then why do I feel like I'm disappearing?" I looked at her, really looked. "Because you've spent years trying to be someone you're not. And you've forgotten who you are." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I wanted to be free, but I built a cage instead." There was silence again until I finally asked, "If you could go back, would you still marry my dad?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached for my hand. And this time, she didn't let go. The house lights flickered behind us, as if warning us. And still, neither of us moved. To be continued. The silence between us that night didn't feel awkward. It felt final, like a door had been opened, and neither of us was sure whether we should step through or shut it forever. Marissa's hand stayed in mine, warm and trembling. I could feel the conflict in her touch, the weight of every choice she'd made, and the gravity of what we were dangerously close to. But I pulled back, not out of shame, out of clarity. "Marissa," I said gently, "I think you know this path won't lead anywhere good." Her face tightened, as if part of her expected me to say that, maybe even needed it. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I crossed a line. That night, I wasn't myself." I shook my head. "You were yourself. That's the scariest part. Tears filled her eyes. I just wanted someone to see me again. I did, I said softly. And that's why I can't let this turn into something we'll both regret. She wiped her cheeks, nodding slowly. You're a better man than I thought. No, I said. Just someone who still has time to choose better. The next morning, I left. I packed quietly, told Dad I needed to go visit a friend in another city for a few days. He didn't question it. Marissa didn't come out of her room. Weeks passed. Distance helped. I stayed away, focused on job interviews, writing, and long walks to clear my head. Every now and then, Dad would text, asking when I'd come home. I always said, soon. But I wasn't ready. Then one day he called. There was something different in his voice. Ethan, Marissa's gone. I stood still. What do you mean? She left. Took some of her stuff. Left a note. What did it say? He read it to me. Asterisk, I'm sorry. I need to find myself again. I can't do that here, pretending to be someone else. You were kind to me, and I'll always be grateful. But I've been living a life I never chose. It's time I stop running from who I really am. Asterisk. Dad sighed. I guess she was never really mine to begin with. I didn't know what to say. For the first time, I understood him more than ever. I'm sorry, Dad. He chuckled softly. Don't be. In some way, I think we both freed each other. Months passed. I found a job, moved to a small apartment by the coast, started teaching at a local college. Life didn't feel as heavy anymore. I was making something of myself. And then one afternoon, I got a letter. No return address. Just my name. Inside was a single sheet of paper. / Dear Ethan. I hope you're well. I'm somewhere quiet now, learning to write again, learning to breathe. Thank you for seeing me that night, for not taking advantage, for giving me the courage to walk away. I think we met at the wrong time, but maybe that's what made it real. Be well. Marissa. / I folded the letter slowly, holding it to my chest for a moment. Not out of longing, not regret, but closure. We all search for meaning in someone else's eyes. We crave to be seen, understood, felt. But sometimes the greatest love we offer is the one that lets someone go. And that night, that storm, that almost moment, it didn't define us. It reminded us who we were and who we could still choose to be. / The end.